And thanks for listening to my podcast slash watching my video. This is video number 9 from the Ketogenic Fasting Project, and today's subject is exercise. I don't know, maybe this will be less popular than my first podcast on fasting, but once people start feeling better, they want to do more stuff. I know I used to go to the gym all the time and struggle. And then when I got on a low carb and eventually a ketogenic diet, I felt so good. I want to do all kinds of stuff. I want to do all kinds of stuff that I used to do, stuff that I had never done before. So I think it's natural for people to want to exercise. Um, Once you have more energy, your joints don't hurt. You don't have crashing blood sugar anymore, and your muscles seem to have incredible stamina. They don't wear out or get tired or fatigue. And then when you work out and you're recovering the next couple days, you don't get that pain in your muscles like you used to when you're carb fed. So you don't have all that lactic acid sitting around. I guess it's actually that lactic acid picks up a hydrogen ion or something, and it's just that inflicts pain on the nerve endings in the muscle. So, but that doesn't happen when you're primarily fed with ketones. And yeah, I guess beta hydroxybutyrate technically isn't a ketone, but it is considered a ketone body for somehow. I don't know if anybody really wants to go down that rabbit hole or get that deep in the weeds, but beta hydroxybutyrate is the primary ketone body that's measured in the blood. That's a fat constituent that fuels the body. It is not the only ketone or ketone body, but it is the one in the blood that's typically measured. And you're going to hear it a lot, so you might as well warm up to it. So I think pretty much everybody agrees exercise is good. Of course, a lot of the data on ketogenic diets might start with pediatric epileptic patients. That is sort of the only recognized medical application that we know of in recent times. Before anti-seizure meds, there were a lot of people on ketogenic diets, but you got to go back to basically the 20s and the 30s, or even farther back. Um, People with seizures and, of course, diabetes were treated with high-fat diets, but not in any modern sense, not in any way that they were studied in the kind of terms that we're used to. So a lot of the data now comes from athletes. A lot of these athletes are outliers. I mean, if you know who Zach Bitter is, or Dr. Baker, Sean Baker, and a number of other people, you hear Dom D'Agostino talking about ketogenics and all the lab work he's done and all the development that he's involved with. We're talking about the Navy SEALs and Dr. Peter Attia. The guy swims from Catalina to shore. These are not everyday people like us. So don't be discouraged, because you don't have to be a physical outlier in terms of being some spectacular athlete to really benefit from this. And that might actually put crazy athletic achievements in our way, in our path in the future. It might make us capable of doing things. It certainly is an enhancement, especially in the endurance sports. But we don't want to get too crazy, because most of us are overweight and out of shape, right? If you are still trying to become fat adapted or keto adapted, I wouldn't drastically increase my exercise, because it'll probably delay that. If you read some of the books on ketogenics, being keto adapted and all that, they make it sound like 2 or 3 weeks and you should be adapted. Maybe it'll take a little longer. But the truth is, it probably takes somewhere like 2, 3, maybe 6 months to a year to become fat adapted. So if you really jump in there head first and really start exercising hard, you might even delay that more. But if you read some of the data or listen to some of the podcasts with some of the experts who are studying athletes in the lab, even top tier athletes are showing changes, even on a genetic level, after a year. So the body is still adapting, is still, well, of course, the body's always trying to um, become more efficient and better at whatever you keep doing. So don't be too shocked by that. But don't if you are feeling good and everything, but you're not fat adapted yet, don't expect exercise or aggressively increasing your exercise to help, because it probably won't. You also gotta realize that, if you're out of shape and overweight, your chances of hurting yourself are kind of high. So you want to like ramp up gently, slowly increase things. If you bust an ankle or a knee or something, you're just going to be laid up for a while and start losing ground. So don't hit it too hard, you know. Walking is good. I think everybody agrees, somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 steps a day is ideal. That's like 2.5 to 5 miles or something like that, depending on your stride. Um, but once you walk for a while, it's just kind of maintenance. It's not great exercise. It's not going to drastically improve your cardiovascular capacity. It's not going to burn a lot of calories. It's one of those things where you kind of hit a lower tier there, and you're going to kind of stay there unless you got time to walk, all day every day. And if you do, try and walk on softer surfaces. Try not to be on the concrete too much. Running is not for everybody. I know I'm still big enough that running's not a great deal of exercise for me. It's a little too hard on my feet still, but I am working my way up to running hills. Just doing short sprints up hills. That's the next tier for me, and that's probably one of the most efficient ways to improve your fitness level. So doing that on natural ground as opposed to running stairs is probably very ideal, even if they're very short sprints. So I already blew past this next slide here. This is exactly what I was just talking about. Sorry about that. I have been doing HIIT, or high intensity interval training. I do it on an elliptical machine. I spent all that time in the gym falling off of treadmills. Why? Because when you're 340 pounds and you try and run on a treadmill, the belt stops. It stops on some of the big fancy machines with some regularity, and I couldn't always catch myself. So I got beat up pretty good, it's pretty embarrassing. Um, Eventually I moved to the elliptical machines because they don't stop when you're jogging. And I tended to get lower back pain a lot back then, and the treadmill would aggravate that. The elliptical machines would too if it didn't have just the right stride. So eventually, when I gave up my gym membership, I went out and I bought a nice expensive elliptical machine, and I still have it, but I had to find one that had just the right stride. So the trick to high intensity interval training is that I get on. You can do this sprinting or rowing or whatever, or on elliptical machine, stairmaster, but you hit it really hard for 30 seconds, like you go balls out, like a tiger's chasing you, and then you take it easy for 90 seconds or a minute and a half, and you do it again, and you repeat that for 14, 16 minutes or whatever. And I was shocked at how much progress I made in a very short period of time. I wasn't quite able to go the full 14 minutes, I think, at full blast the first 3 times or so, but all of a sudden I was catching up. I noticed I was breathing a lot better. The muscle development in my legs was excellent, and so I keep that up. And I like a recovery period of about 4 days, before I hit it again. So I'm doing it usually every 5th day. Once in a while I'll do it on the 4th day or the 6th day or whatever. But the long recovery period is key, and those short bursts are key. So a lot easier and a lot more productive than what I used to do. And so it's a nice example of not hitting those points of diminishing return. Oh, I already covered this too, sorry, but you can do this, like I said, on a treadmill, elliptical machine, stair climber, stationary bike, or just running on the ground or running hills or whatever. Skipping rope, I keep a rope in the trunk of my car. I get bored at work, I go out and I skip rope. If you only skip for 30 seconds, a minute or so, 2 minutes, whatever, I usually just sit there and beat myself in the shins with the thing, but it's a good workout. Doing sit-ups, you can work your abs every day. That's one muscle group that's okay for almost everybody to work every day. So even if you just do a handful of sit-ups, it's good. Pull-ups, I'm still working on pull-ups. I still can't lift my own giant body off the ground very well, but I'm working at it. I'm gonna keep doing it. It's something simple. Everybody can get a chin-up bar for the doorway, put a few screws in. And if my giant ass can hang there, you can too. And then of course there's push-ups. Right now I could only do like 25 at a time, but you do that every few days or whatever, maybe a couple times that one day. I got more muscle development out of that than I did bench pressing 350 pounds twice a week. Drops. This is another technique that kind of makes you unlearn what you used to do. Picking up a large amount of weight and instead of putting it down, dropping it. They say this is not only a great way to put muscle on, it's a very good way to get lean, just like doing hill sprints. It's not just about putting on muscle, it's about taking off body fat. For some reason, the body responds to this. So rather than doing the up and down motion, you're just lifting up and you're dropping it. This is something I'm just adding to my routine myself. So if you got access to a pool, it's excellent exercise. If anything, that cold water helps you burn a tremendous amount of fat. That's why swimmers, they can have, they can eat 8, 9, 10,000 calories a day, and most of that energy is just spent keeping them warm in the water. So good stuff. I wish I had a pool. Heart rate used to be all about getting your heart rate up and burning as much fat as possible. You had to get your heart rate up to a certain level before you ever tapped into that fat. But now the idea is you want to take the number 200, subtract your age, and then not get your heart above that, but close to that number. So if you're 50 years old, you want to get your heart up to like 150 beats per minute, which for most people isn't that bad. So if you're not there, work your way up to it. You don't, according to the current data, you don't really need to push yourself beyond that. In fact, you probably don't want to. The Ketogenic Fasting Project again. This is video number 9. I thank you for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'm going to try and keep these things short for people. That's probably the number one thing. A lot of people don't start them or don't finish them because they need them short. So I'm working on that, and this one's going to come in at well under 15 minutes, and the previous one was just barely over 10. So, but thanks again, and I hope this helps somebody.